Who are the best values among players, whether you're playing FanDuel cash games, DraftKings tournaments, or PrizePicks? And who are the injury updates that you need to know here going into the Saturday and Sunday games? It's time to break it down right here, right now, as we begin another edition and close another week of Locked On Fantasy Football.
Our Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm going to do this. I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for SportingNews.com. We're here at the end of the week. We're getting excited for only Sunday games this week in terms of the main slate for fantasy football DFS, and we look at our FanDuel cash games and DraftKings tournaments, the players to target in those particular formats, the ones we like to play all season long. Then, of course, our title DFS sponsor here, PrizePicks. We give you the PrizePicks picks of the week. We've been going from 10 to 12. Now we're expanding to a baker's dozen here. It's the holiday season. Still New Year's around the corner. Happy early New Year. Good luck there into going into 2023. We also have some big college football games. So a lot of football excitement this weekend for sure. When you look at the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just going to be a bonanza there of playoff games in college. And then we're also going to have playoff caliber type games in the NFL. And we know for many of you, this is the seasonal championship weekend because we don't all play into week 18. Some of you do. We'll be with you there to break it down all the way through the finale of the season, go into the playoffs as well, because we know DFS and other fantasy games go into that and betting aspects. So we got you covered there and throughout the offseason here at Locked On Fantasy Football. But we got to take care of business here and close out our analysis of Week 17. We'll do that in a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered the season, more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, what we're going to do first is go to our DFS on FanDuel and DraftKings. Then we'll give you the injury updates you need to know going into the weekend. And then we'll close with our PrizePicks picks of the weekend on a high note. We've been riding high there with a lot of things we've been targeting more or less than the PrizePicks projection. Hint, we always go more, and we like the yardage as well. So that's where we tend to lean here with those projections, and we'll give you those picks here at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Well, let's start here with the FanDuel and DraftKings picks. For FanDuel cash games, I'm paying up for Justin Fields. We said he was the number one quarterback on the board this week based on the matchup, based on potentially he'll trail. There is a concern that he's missing some key receivers. Dante Pettis added to that injury list as well with Chase Claypool and Equanimeous St. Brown, so we may not see the two St. Brown brothers on the field here. So something we need to keep in mind. But he's got Cole Kmet. There's some other weapons that can step up. And we know a lot of Justin Fields' biggest weaponry is his legs, the running game, and also throwing David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. So all that will be in play here for Justin Fields. He was very disappointing as a runner last week. The Bills did a great job of containing him with the linebackers. The Lions not nearly as good on the second level. So Justin Fields is a big rebound game. If you were able to survive with him in the seasonal leagues, congratulations. But now we can reboot. That's what we like in DFS. If Fields' performance knocked us out there, we can go right back to Fields in a better matchup here. So love that at 8,400, paying up to make sure we're all sewed in nice and neat there with a reliable quarterback that's going to give us those high-end points in cash games. Now, if we're going to DraftKings tournaments, we just pivot to the other side of this matchup. Jared Goff at 5,600. He should carve up this Bears secondary. The one concern is the game script in terms of, do the Lions get up too far ahead on this Bears team, just eat them up with the running game? That is a bit of a concern, but still Jared Goff is a passing machine when it comes to home games, Ford Field, friendly confines there inside. And they're really having the weapons, have a great matchup across the board. Amon-Ra St. Brown You got DJ Chark. They're going to be open all over the field here and help him and DeAndre Swift to catch it fast out of the backfield. They've used their tight ends better, including Shane Zylstra here to make some plays. So they've got some guys that can be active all over the field here to help Goff put in those multiple touchdowns you're looking for, as well as high volume. And I think Fields is definitely going to provide some resistance against this Lions defense, where Goff is going to have to keep passing so we can push up to that 300-yard level for sure this week. All right, let's pivot to running back here. For our cash games, our picks are James Conner. This guy has just been strong of late. It doesn't matter if it's Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy or Trace McSorley. He's just been producing 8,000. The payoff is worth it. It's the Falcons this week. The Falcons on the road. We saw them get destroyed against the Ravens duo of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins last week. So really liking James Conner here. Safest play there on the board. They're going to lean on him a lot here with Colt McCoy back, and McCoy helps the offense a little bit to get in better position to score touchdowns as well. So good news for Conner. Good for 100 and a touch again this week. So lock that in. Travis Etienne has run really well the last couple of weeks. They're probably going to lean on him quite a bit against that Texans run defense. It's hard to throw outside of the Texans, so they're going to work the middle of the field, pound Etienne a little bit. We get Christian Kirk, more on his value later in the show. But yeah, it's a Kirk, Ingram, Etienne game. Really, that's been the case of late for the Jaguars. They've all been Kirk, Etienne, and Ingram games, and Zay Jones has been mixed in when appropriate where the matchup lines up, such as the Cowboys game. This is a matchup, again, that should really feed the middle of the field. So those pickups here, Kirk and Ingram, have been huge. Etienne, really a pickup because he didn't play all last year as a first-round running back. So he's been looking good. So those are the payups this week for the cash games on FanDuel. 8,000 for Conner, 77 for Travis Etienne. I really like Etienne this week. Also getting a little bit more involved in the passing game, which I like to see with his skill set. Cam Akers, only 6,100 on DraftKings. This guy has been destroying it. He would have killed it there if you made him the main guy on your Sunday 3-game slate. Cam Akers was amazing in that game. He's been scoring at a high rate. They get the Chargers this week. That's how the Rams are going to have to move the ball. Keep pounding with Akers. They don't really have much of a choice here. Baker Mayfield's down to maybe Tyler Higbee as his trusted target in the passing game. So you're going to see a lot of Akers against the Chargers. Sean McVay is pretty smart. He's going to attack where Brandon Staley, his former defensive coordinator, has weaknesses in run defense. So I do like Akers there at 6,100. Leonard Fournette, what a big game for playoff Lenny. He saved the day for the Buccaneers in Arizona there on Sunday night to 5,600 only for Leonard Fournette. Now, Rachaad White, what's happening in the momentum, and I don't think Fournette's role ever went away. They trust him quite a bit as the pass catcher supreme. He can also run pretty well. He's also overdue to score a touchdown here. There's a good chance that can happen against the Panthers, and he's had some good success against this team in the past. In general, this Buccaneers running game has. So Fournette, 5,600. If you're looking for two guys who could blow up that maybe have less ownership this week, Akers and Fournette. All right, let's go back to FanDuel and the cash games and wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown, love his chances to blow up in this one. He's been quiet in relation to his previous bigger games of late, but 8,200 working with Jared Goff there. That's not a bad cash game stack that you can look at in the slot. We know the Bears secondary really beat up. They don't have Kittle, Vildor. They don't have Jalen Johnson. They're down to Kyler Gordon in the slot. He's really struggled all year. So a lot of depletion in that secondary for the Bears. It looks really good. Amon-Ra, again, too bad his brother Equanimeous won't play because he would have been kind of a sleeper play, that one. But really looking at St. Brown, one of the brothers, going off this week. Chris Godwin, the Panthers are going to be without J.C. Horn. I know Horn primarily plays on the outside and covers the team's best receiver, so we could see some containment of Mike Evans downfield. Chris Godwin opening things up in the slot here. So do like that value for Godwin at 7,600 there. I think you'll get nice return on investment there with nice volume against the Panthers. Garrett Wilson is back relevant. He was really disappointing, we know, against the Jaguars last week. That was because he had Zach Wilson, the quarterback. So Wilson doesn't have to catch pass from Wilson. He can go back to Mike White to save the day. What I like about Wilson, they do move him around quite a bit. I know technically Elijah Moore profiles as their best slot, but Wilson moves around. That's good because you don't want to be stuck on Tariq Woolen, the big rookie corner. So you'd have rookie on rookie there, but you can get in the middle. You get to the matchup against Kobe Bryant a little bit more beatable there for the rookie Garrett Wilson. So I like him at 7,300, getting nice volume and riding the ship here with White as his quarterback, giving him some legitimacy. The pass game. We've talked about these guys a little bit as deeper guys that you can look at in regular seasonal leagues, but Drake London, 4,900, like how it's warming up with Desmond Ridder. That could be the new combination going forward. A lot of Ridder and London playing together with their cohort, Kyle Pitts in the mix. I'd love to see how that young offense comes together, but London looking good. The Cardinals secondary, they finally put Byron Murphy Jr. on IR with the back injury, so he's not going to be playing. He was their best corner. Marco Wilson has a new injury with his neck. You have their other cornerback, Antonio Hamilton, banged up. So it is rough for that secondary. So this is really nice for Drake London at home against that Cardinals cornerback core. Romeo Doubs has a big opportunity here with Christian Watson. That hip injury, just really concerning here. Not playing this week, and I just didn't think it looked good there against the Dolphins when he had to come out of the game. He was ruled out pretty quickly. That's usually not a good sign. These hip injuries usually are 1 week deals where you keep a player out. We had Jamar Chase miss some time with a similar injury, so Watson's going to miss 1 game, and they can just pivot to Doubs here and a lot of Al Lazard. So I do like Doubs because of his big touchdown potential at 4,700 here. We saw that without Watson early in the season. Now, let's look at DJ Chark as well. You saw what the Gabe Davis did against the Bears. They're allowing some production to that number 2 kind of outside receiver. I think Chark is kind of in there in the mix, they go inside out with St. Brown as their number 1. But Chark, you'll get also Josh Reynolds banged up for this game a little bit with the element here. So when you look at that, DJ Chark should get some key targets, and he did look really good last week against the Panthers. He's one of the bright spots in their offense, making some plays in that blowout. All right, let's go to tight end. It's one and the same. We don't have Travis Kelce there to want to pay up for. We also don't have any other options that we want to go to, especially with Mark Andrews playing in prime time. So 7,400 and 5,900. The answer is George Kittle. The Raiders really struggle against the tight end. Kittle has just been destroying it with Brock Purdy. He's feeding him the ball. It really has been benefiting from the loss of Deebo Samuel, where they needed some guy to make plays after the catch in the middle of the field. George Kittle has really capitalized on that spot here, feeling it with Purdy, that Iowa State-Iowa connection rolling here. So 7,400, nice pay down from Kelce to get high results there. On FanDuel, 5,900, only on DraftKings for Kittle. All right, let's go to our defenses this week. And the Cleveland Browns, this is a cheaper play on FanDuel. I don't love the prices here on FanDuel, but again, they get Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz can make mistakes here. They could get Jadeveon Clowney back as well, so that would help with Myles Garrett, maybe disrupting things against the passing game of the Commanders. So that's as low as I can go here with the Browns at 3,700 this week. I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game between these two teams, and Wentz is always a threat to make a big mistake. And how about this for the price of the 49ers? Only 2,100 against the Raiders. Now, this got better during the week because earlier the pricing was a little bit low just because the Raiders hadn't been turning the ball over and giving up much points to defenses, but that changed against the Steelers when he had 3 interceptions from Derek Carr. What did that get Carr? A benching. So now he's on the bench. Jared Stidham is starting against this nasty 49ers defense at home. This is a weird, curious choice to make this move this time. You know, you're trying to preserve Derek Carr for a trade or whatever, but if you're benching him because he was poorly playing, his trade values just went down. Anyway, this is the Raiders. They're probably trying to wave the white flag and say, hey, we're open for business for any quarterback changes. Hello, Tom Brady. So this is what's happening, and Stidham is going to have to face that nasty 49ers defense. So chalk it up, lock it in. There'll probably be chalk here, but just take them to the 49ers because it's going to allow a lot of flexibility elsewhere in your DraftKings lineup. Now, we'll get in our injury updates and our PrizePicks picks of the week in our final 2 segments here on Locked On Fantasy Football Lineup Friday to close the week. Did you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means driving high could get you a DUI. If you think law enforcement officers can't tell when you're driving high, you're wrong. Your friends can tell, your coworkers can tell, even your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes you think that law enforcement officers don't know when you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you're fine and in line to drive when you're high, you're not. Because the bottom line is, if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI, paid for by the NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. All right, we'll continue the show here in Locked On Fantasy Football in a moment. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On Stake of the Day. Locked On Sports Today available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get into the injury updates you need to know here for this week. And look, it's a tough week, but not a lot of injuries that we'll worry about. We got Colt McCoy helping to help the Cardinals. Tyler Huntley in there in line to be the guy on Sunday night for Lamar Jackson once again. Aaron Rodgers will be fine to play with the right thumb knee injuries. Trevor Lawrence is good to go with the toe. So those are the main ones. Tua Tagovailoa, we knew early in the week it was not looking good with that concussion, and we should get the official word here soon on that. So Tua out, Teddy Bridgewater, not a bad streamer this week. Mike White coming back from the ribs injury. He will start for the Jets over Zach Wilson, who's going to be buried in the depth chart. Gardner Minshew set to get another start here. They're going to be playing it safe with Jalen Hurts. Brock Purdy is going to be playing again through that oblique and rib injury for Jimmy Garoppolo against the Raiders. Can put up multiple touchdowns in that one. And Ryan Tannehill missing another game. We saw that on Thursday night. So Malik Willis, that was the biggest one there. So struggles for the Titans offense continue there with that situation. So you'll not see Ryan Tannehill definitely in week 18 in that big matchup against the Jaguars there in Jacksonville with the AFC South title on the line. James Conner is fine. He's battled through an illness early in the week. Kareem Hunt should be out there for the Browns with a shoulder injury, so good to go there. We have Latavius Murray playing through non-injury. He'll be okay. He had a foot last week. That's no longer an issue this week. Aaron Jones will keep playing. He's had an ankle injury. He rolled it up early in that game against the Dolphins, was able to finish. So Jones is good to go here. Austin Eckler, minor knee issue, but he's going to keep rolling against the Rams this week. Ramondre Stevenson, Damon Harris probably have that same situation where Harris misses time and Stevenson plays in this one. So hopefully he'll get a rebound game against the Dolphins after the clunker against the Bengals. You're looking at Alvin Kamara, the different injury issues have popped up with him all season. He's only missed one game, that one London game that was a surprise, but he's good to go with the quad here, and he should get high volume against the Eagles. Miles Sanders, the knee issue is definitely a concern. They might limit his work here. And the Eagles, again, erring on the side of caution with all their players here, starting with Jalen Hurts offensively. With that, Christian McCaffrey good to go. The knee injury here, Jordan Mason behind him has a hamstring injury. Kenneth Walker and the DJ Dallas, they've been careful with them with those ankle injuries in Seattle, but they should be available there. You look at Brian Robinson Jr., he's good to go with the quad, not looking good here for Antonio Gibson. That's why we like Brian Robinson quite a bit in DFS. We'll talk about that when we get our PrizePicks pick of the week. That's another player you can target there. Now, in cash games, even if Gibson misses that game against the Browns run defense here. Looking at wide receiver, not a lot here. The Bears are short-handed again. Amari Cooper will play through the hip injury there. You'll get Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy back in the lineup with hamstring and ankle injuries. They should be fine for this Chiefs matchup. A good matchup there. Christian Watson not looking good with a hip injury. We've already documented that with upgrading Romeo Doubs and looking at also Alan Lazard having a little bit more value. Chris Olave, let's hope he can return from a hamstring injury against the Eagles. Tougher matchup this week, but Darius Slay and James Bradbury have given up some numbers of late. In the same game, A.J. Brown should play through his knee injury. They'll be careful with everybody, but again, they need to still get a win. They want to play it too cautious there against the Saints, and if somebody can play, they're going to go there. Deontay Johnson will continue playing with the toe injury. Deebo Samuel going to miss another game with that ankle and knee issue. We'll look at Tyler Lockett. The reports have been that he's looked good in walkthroughs and different situations here to potentially play this week. The Seahawks are desperate. They need their players. So it's a game that does matter against the Jets, so we'll see how it plays out, especially if Marquise Goodwin doesn't play with the shoulder injury. Didn't look good. Didn't return last week. Did for a little while, but then had to re-exit the game and not really get there for that. And then not a lot we'll see at tight end. Tommy Tremble a little bit banged up for the Panthers. Don't count on Greg Dulcich for that hamstring for the Broncos. We're good otherwise here. Hunter Henry, you're not trusting too much of the knee injury anyway in that matchup against the Dolphins. Pat Freiermuth, no foot injury. Was rested early in the week with a personal issue, so he should be good to go. Noah Fant, there's no Will Dissly. He's been put on IR with a knee contusion, but Fant should play here and did score the last few weeks. And Cade Otton should be fine with that quad injury that he has for the Buccaneers. So not a lot of key injuries here, which is good. A lot of the guys that we know are out or on injured reserve now. That's what happens late in the season. There's not much of a window. They're not going to play or return for 2 or 3 weeks, then they're going to put them down for the season. That's what we've seen with a lot of these situations for sure with our injury update. So not too much to sweat there this weekend, the biggest one being Christian Watson for sure, if you've been relying a lot on him. And it was tough to see him come out of the game last week, but there's an opportunity here with Dubs this week. All right, it's an exciting time. We talked about it. There's college football playoff games on the 31st and other bowl games that you can check out. There's also good stuff here in the NFL with a lot of things on the line in the final 2 weeks of the season. Well, your best source for getting into all that action is betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball, the World Cup, which just ended, we can get into the Women's World Cup next year already. We got it all available for you at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information. Head to the website today, use a mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we get excited about this last segment of the week every week because it's PrizePicks. They've been with us the whole way as our DFS title sponsor here on Locked On Fantasy Football. So we want you to get in on the game, and don't forget, if you use that promo code, you can get in there on this PrizePicks instant deposit match up to $100. The promo code is Locked On. I'll put it on the screen there for you on YouTube so you can check it out. There you go. 100% deposit match up to $100 if you get in. So last 2 weeks of the season in the playoffs, great time to get in if you haven't done so here, there for you. So check that out at PrizePicks. So you can just pick 2 to 6 players, and all you have to do is go more or less than their PrizePicks projection here, and that's how you can win 10 times your money here playing PrizePicks. Daily fantasy sports made easy for you. All right, let's go to our picks of the week. We said we've got 13 choices for you, so you can pick from these. You can target this good stuff here that we've given you. And we did really well last week. We had a few that just fell short, namely Justin Fields and Dalvin Cook with their rushing, but otherwise it's pretty good. We've been feeling it here with some of these more or less projections. We go more because it's a little bit easier to think about that when you look at game script than going less, because less, I think, disappoints you a little bit more. So let's go optimistic, seeing the glass half full, and start here. So we have 3 quarterbacks with yardage. 275.5 is the passing yardage. We're going more for Patrick Mahomes at home against the Broncos. He's going to have to throw quite a bit. This one, it's not easy to run on the Broncos, although the Rams did it last week, but there's going to be some resistance. I bet the Broncos play a little bit better without Nathaniel Hackett. They tend to play better teams with interim coaches. Spark there. Jerry Rosburg is the guy here. So competitive last time with Russell Wilson, just enough. So Mahomes, I think, goes over 275.5. Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers in the same game. 263.5 here for Kirk Cousins, 230.5 for Aaron Rodgers. So I like those numbers quite a bit. These teams are going to go back and forth. I like the Packers to win this game, so it's going to require some passing beyond that for Rodgers. So more than 230.5 for Rodgers, more than 263.5 from Cousins. A good matchup there at Lambeau Field. All right, those are our quarterbacks that we like based on those yardages. How about Brian Robinson Jr. looking at the situation with Antonio Gibson not looking good? It doesn't matter. Antonio Gibson really hasn't touched the ball that much. 65.5 is the rushing yardage. He just has to beat that against the Browns run defense. I think that happens. Travis Etienne Jr. we like 73.5 going against the Texans run defense. We're going to go more there with Travis Etienne for sure. David Montgomery. I know Khalil Herbert's a little bit more involved. Justin Fields will run a little bit better in Detroit, but I do like that number for David Montgomery, 61.5. I think he'll hit that again here against the Lions. Run defense, we saw it a little bit up and down, maybe a little bit of Raj against the Jets a couple of weeks ago because of Zach Wilson, but we saw them really get gashed for the tune of 245 yards in the first half against the Panthers. So you're looking at only getting 25% of that total for David Montgomery. I think you can get there. Look at the Christian McCaffrey, 65.5. Really like that number, especially Jordan Mason a little bit banged up, and they've been not giving Mason too much work there. So 65.5. The game script should be positive with Jared Stidham starting, so like that number quite a bit. 66.5 for Cam Akers in terms of rushing yards. Yeah, we're going to go more than that as well. These are our last rushing yards that we're looking at. Again, he's been getting the rock quite a bit. Good defensive matchup against Chargers. So all these are really great matchups if you look at it by the numbers, and good situations for the Commanders, for the Jaguars, for the Bears, the 49ers, and Rams, all playing some weak run defenses, and that's why we're exploiting these numbers as well as the talent and recent production of all those players involved. Now let's give you our 5 wide receivers and tight ends combined that we like. Amari Cooper, 56.5 against the Commanders. They can scheme them open. They're inside or outside, so I like that number. Benjamin St. Juste is still hurting on the outside here for the Commanders. So 56.5 is what we're looking at with Cooper hitting more than that. Christian Kirk, we said in the middle of the field, that's where the Jaguars are going to make their money in hay against the cover 2 defense of the Texans. So 68.5 here for Christian Kirk. Or 58.5. We're going to hit that for sure. 68.5. We probably would have gone after that as well with more, but we're going to do more for Christian Kirk on 58.5. Easily, Travis Kelce really was money in the bag last week, really just going well over his projection. 71.5 is the number again. He's going to hit close to 100 yards again. He went over well, 115. He had the long catch late in the game to do it. We were a little bit nervous before then, but Travis Kelce should be involved from the get-go out of the gate because it's much easier to throw on the tight end or throw to the tight end versus wide receivers there against the Broncos. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, another Christian Kirk parallel, working in the middle of the field, 75.5. He's been right at that even when not blowing up. I think he hits that easily. And George Kittle, we liked him a lot on traditional DFS there with FanDuel and DraftKings. We like him at 44.5. He's going to clear that yardage total for sure. I mean, he can do it a couple catches here after the catch. So really feeling that with George Kittle at 44.5, more on the receiving yardage there for your 49ers red-hot tight end. So there you have it. There's a look at FanDuel, DraftKings, PrizePicks, the injury updates, and this is our DFS and injury report to close things off for Week 17 on lineup Friday. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. Now make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today podcast, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For this edition of Locked On Fantasy Football, and this week, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Good luck in all your matchups, whether you're playing championships and seasonal or semifinals. Make sure you come out on top and do well in all your DFS contests. We'll catch you on Monday to break it all down for you here on Locked On Fantasy Football.